Hello everyone, welcome to SW News. Welcome to yet another live at 8:30 p.m. with me. So today we are going to discuss about UP elections as well as we are going to discuss about Punjab elections. For UP elections, our topic will be Prime Minister Modi cancelling his rally to Bijnor today. Today he was supposed to address a rally in physical in Bijnor, but the rally was cancelled due to bad weather. This was the reason cited by Prime Minister Modi's office. However, the point to be noted here is that it has been so many days since the campaigning started, since the model code of conduct started in Uttar Pradesh and several states. In fact, for the first phase of voting in Uttar Pradesh, that is to be held on February 10th, just 3 more days are remaining, and today is the last day of campaigning. And surprisingly, Prime Minister Modi was seen missing from this entire campaigning. So, why was Prime Minister Modi missing from the entire scene in Uttar Pradesh? Whereas, on the other hand, the opposition, right from Priyanka Gandhi to Akhilesh Yadav to even we can see Yogi Adityanath was also campaigning, canvassing across the Western UP. We had JP Nadda canvassing across Western UP. Amit Shah was going door to door campaigning in Western UP. So, why wasn't Prime Minister Modi there, who is the star campaigner of the BJP? That is what we are going to discuss today in UP. In Punjab politics, we are going to discuss the selection of Charanjit Singh Channi as the chief ministerial candidate by the Congress party. Yesterday, Rahul Gandhi announced that Charanjit Singh Channi will be the next chief ministerial candidate of the Congress party. Whereas on the other hand, we also saw Navjot Singh Sidhu standing on the stage and cheering for Charanjit Singh Channi. So I am delighted to announce that on our panel today is Dr. Rakesh Pathak. He is chief editor of karmveer.org, and he has also edited several reputed dailies and newspapers in his career. We are also joined by Ronki Ram, Professor Ronki Ram. You might have seen him last time around talking about Punjab politics. He is a professor at Punjab University and specializes in Dalit politics in Punjab. And of course, we are joined by our chief editor, managing editor, Mr. Sujit Nair. So, first of all, राकेश जी, मैं आप ही के पास आऊंगी. ये जो पहला सवाल था मेरा कि मोदी जी कंप्लीटली मिसिंग है, फर्स्ट फेज जो है उसके लिए जो कैंपेनिंग है उससे कंप्लीटली मिसिंग दिख रहे हैं.
देखिए आरती, उनका सीन में से गायब होना, उत्तर प्रदेश के परिदृश्य से गायब होना मामूली घटना नहीं है. इसके पीछे की पड़ताल में अगर आप जाएंगे तो पाएंगे कि उत्तर प्रदेश शायद भारतीय जनता पार्टी के लिए अभी जो हालात हैं उसमें ऐसा लगता है कि जैसे वाटरलू साबित हो सकता है. हम नहीं जानते परिणाम क्या होंगे आगे चलकर, लेकिन फिलहाल जो दृश्य है उसमें किसानों के आंदोलन के बाद जिस तरह नरेंद्र मोदी को टेलीविजन पर आकर माफी मांगनी पड़ी, किसान कानून वापस लेना पड़े, उसके बाद जो प्रतिक्रिया है पश्चिमी उत्तर प्रदेश में खास तौर से और वैसे पूरे उत्तर प्रदेश में, वो उनके लिए चिंताजनक है. और ये जो प्रतिक्रियाएं वहां से आ रही हैं, इसकी सारी इंटेलिजेंस से रिपोर्ट और पार्टी के स्तर पर रिपोर्ट पहुंचती ही होगी सरकार के पास, प्राइम मिनिस्टर ऑफिस के पास, बीजेपी के राष्ट्रीय मुख्यालय में. तो इस सारी प्रतिक्रिया को देखते हुए शायद बीजेपी इससे बचना चाहती है कि जो नरेंद्र मोदी देश में पंचायत चुनाव तक का श्रेय लेते हैं या उनकी पार्टी उन्हें देती है, उन नरेंद्र मोदी को उत्तर प्रदेश की संभावित चुनौती से बचाए रखना चाहती है. शायद पार्टी को लग रहा होगा कि कल अगर परिणाम सकारात्मक नहीं रहे तो वे ये कह पाएंगे कि प्रधानमंत्री गए नहीं थे वहां पर. और जैसा कि आज आपने जिस सभा की बात कही कि वेदर के कारण वे नहीं गए, लोगों ने वहां के टेम्परेचर का स्क्रीनशॉट डाल दिया कि 17 डिग्री टेम्परेचर था. ऐसा कोई वेदर खराब नहीं था कि पीएम नहीं जा सकते थे. खाली कुर्सियों के परिदृश्य भी सामने आ गए वहां के. तो जो मोदी की इमेज है, लार्जर देन लाइफ इमेज जो है, माइटी हिमालयन मैन वाली जो इमेज है, वो अभी कहीं दरकती हुई दिखाई देती है. हम नहीं कह रहे कि वो इमेज अभी खत्म होने जा रही है, लेकिन उसमें दरार आना शुरू हो गई है. उससे बचने के लिए पार्टी जानबूझकर उन्हें उत्तर प्रदेश के संग्राम से बचाकर रखे हुए, उन्हें दूर रख रही है. हो सकता है पहले चरण के बाद दूसरे या तीसरे चरण में कुछ उम्मीदें जागे पार्टी की, तब वे फिर से मैदान में आए. लेकिन फिलहाल जो खतरा है, जिस पर मैंने कहा कि उनके जो ब्रांड इमेज है, ब्रांड मोदी खतरे में है, इसलिए उन्हें अभी नेपथ्य में पर्दे के पीछे रखा जा रहा है. जी आरती.
Very
So
valid point. Aarti, may I
yes.
ask a question? I want to
जी जी
ask a question to Professor
मैं
Ram, actually.
जी 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 प्लीज
Professor,
प्लीज
the reason I wanted to ask you this question is because I completely agree to what Dr. Saab said. What Dr. Patak said is absolutely correct. Darare aani lag gayi hai. There is definitely a issue in the way Modi is being accepted across the country. Now, hasn't this started in Punjab, Professor Saab? Hasn't this started from Punjab? Isn't it after that security incident where it was supposed to be somewhere where he would get more mileage?
डिबेट में
Isn't the fall
डिबेट
started from then, Ram Saab?
You see that in Punjab or in Uttar Pradesh, you see elections are something which are, need a lot of skill to present parties' viewpoint, to try to, jump into the campaign and to, this is an electoral machine. Now, how do you manage that? It all depends on a lot of many things. So keeping in view the in-depth, understanding of the electoral system by the BJP and especially Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji, who has been campaigning for all constituencies across the length and breadth of the country. So not coming to Uttar Pradesh might be having some meaning, deep meaning in that. So they're trying to, as Patak Saab has said rightly, that they might be afraid of this. But as far as reports in the newspaper shows also, Kisan factory is one thing, but whereas the other, some part of the UP, still where we find the BJP, the impact of the Kisan agitation is not on those regions. But maybe they are in search of a right opportunity to do this. But as far as Punjab is concerned, you can well imagine how the things are taking shape in Punjab also. BJP, though, has never been a stronghold over the Punjab politics, but over the last few years, BJP has been trying its level best to to enter into the Punjab very effectively, and they have been able to make some inroads as far as the support structure is concerned. The coming election, we will find it how much actually they have penetrated. They have trying to make even in different communities their presence. So that shows ultimately their larger goal of Congress Mukt Bharat. You see,
Correct.
only
Correct.
Congress Mukt Bharat. Congress
Dr.
Mukt
Saab,
Bharat.
yes, Dr. Saab, I wanted to ask you a question, Patak Saab.
जी
डॉक्टर साहब, ये जो इलेक्शन है, ये बीजेपी को बियॉन्ड जीतना तो जरूरी है, बट ये इलेक्शंस का रामिफिकेशन बहुत ज्यादा हो सकता है बीजेपी को, इजंट इट? क्योंकि ये प्रेसिडेंशियल इलेक्शन को इफेक्ट कर सकता है, ये 2024 का इलेक्शन को इफेक्ट कर सकता है. तो क्या सिर्फ एक इमेजरी के लिए या सिर्फ प्रधानमंत्री का या मोदी जी का इमेज बचाने के लिए क्या भारतीय जनता पार्टी इतनी बड़ी रिस्क लेने को, कैन दे अफोर्ड टू टेक दिस बिगर रिस्क?
नहीं सुजीत सर, देखिए रिस्क लेने की स्थिति में तो नहीं है भारतीय जनता पार्टी. जैसा कि आपने भी कहा और हम सब जानते हैं कि दिल्ली का रास्ता जो है, दिल्ली का जो राजपथ है, वो लखनऊ से होकर गुजरता है. लखनऊ से ही दिल्ली पहुंचा जा सकता है. देश का सबसे बड़ा राज्य है, सबसे ज्यादा लोकसभा सीटें हैं, विधानसभा बहुत बड़ी है, राष्ट्रपति चुनाव सामने है अभी, और 2024 में भी देरी नहीं है. रिस्क बीजेपी नहीं ले सकती, इसीलिए बीजेपी उत्तर प्रदेश जीतने के लिए सब कुछ दांव पर लगा रही है. आप देखिए, प्रधानमंत्री का भाषण देख लीजिए, केंद्रीय गृह मंत्री का भाषण देख लें, योगी आदित्यनाथ के भाषण देख लें, वे उत्तर प्रदेश के चुनाव को अपनी निर्धारित पिच पर लाने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं. लगातार आप देख लीजिए, पहले दिन से हिंदू मुसलमान, जिन्ना, भाईजान, अब्बाजान, इस तरह की जो बातें हो रही हैं कि गर्मी निकाल दी जाएगी, शिमला बना दिया जाएगा, ये सब चीजें इसीलिए हो रही हैं कि जो बीजेपी चाहती है कैसे भी करके ये पूरा चुनाव उस पिच पर आ जाए, क्योंकि उसका उन्हें तजुर्बा है. उनके पास ये तजुर्बा नहीं है कि रोजगार की बात कर सकें. उनके भाषणों में ये शब्द भी नहीं होते हैं, रोजगार, रोटी, बेरोजगारी. आपने पिछले 7 साल से माननीय नरेंद्र मोदी जी के किसी भाषण में इन शब्दों को नहीं सुना होगा. आज भी वे संसद में जो कुछ बोल रहे थे, वे नेहरू को भी आज उन्होंने बड़ी श्रद्धा से याद किया, तो उन्हें धन्यवाद देना चाहिए, पर जिस रूप में उन्होंने किया वो हम सब जानते हैं। तो उत्तर प्रदेश उनके लिए 2023 और 24 में भी अगले, अभी देखिए जो हिंदी बेल्ट है, सुजीत जी, मध्य प्रदेश, छत्तीसगढ़, राजस्थान में चुनाव होना है, तो ये जो काऊ बेल्ट जिसको कहा जाता है, गौ पट्टी जो है, इसमें उत्तर प्रदेश के चुनावी नतीजों का बहुत असर होने वाला है। इसलिए बीजेपी अभी, और उसके तर्कश में बहुत तीर होंगे। आप यकीन मानिए, इस पहले दौर का मतदान जरूर 3 दिन बाद होना है, और अभी तो बहुत सारे मतदान होने हैं, 7 चरण का मतदान है। उनके तर्कश में कैसे कैसे और तीर अभी निकल कर आएंगे, उनकी भाषा, उनके विमर्श का स्तर अभी वहां पहुंचेगा जहां हमने 2017 में कब्रिस्तान शमशान देश के मुखिया की जुबानी सुना था। तो मैं ये नहीं मानता हूं कि वो रिस्क नहीं लेंगे, वे सारी रिस्क लेंगे, चाहे उसके लिए कुछ भी करना पड़े। इन्वर्टेड कॉमा में कहना चाहता हूं, कुछ भी करना पड़े, और कुछ भी करने में उनका जो एक्सपर्टाइज है, उनकी जो विशेषज्ञता है, वो हम और आप सब जानते हैं। लेकिन बड़ा खतरा यह है कि क्या सचमुच में जनता भी, उत्तर प्रदेश का जो मतदाता है, जो वोटर है, क्या वो उनके इस राग भैरवी ताल कहरवा में आने को तैयार है? हिंदू, मुसलमान, जिन्ना, पाकिस्तान, आतंकवादी, अगर वो इसमें नहीं आ रहा है तो परिणाम बीजेपी के लिए बहुत सुखद नहीं रहेंगे। लेकिन कोशिश तो बीजेपी करेगी ही आखिरी क्षण तक, ऐसा मेरा अनुमान है फिलहाल।
Correct. Aarti, I think Varun is here. So Varun,
Yes.
welcome.
Hello.
Varun is senior journalist,
Hello.
good friend, and a fine political analyst. So Varun, you've joined a little late, but the topic remains that why is Narendra Modi not campaigning in Uttar Pradesh? What is stopping him?
One small thing that I would like to point out again, Narendra Modi is campaigning. I was, even in the last discussion, we were talking about how things have changed, how there's a major shift in, you don't need someone personally present. Even today's Bijnor, in what happened, it clearly shows the enthusiasm amongst the public. They just want to see Narendra Modi. If you see 2014 elections, even then this virtual thing of his holograms that were used, he was not necessarily present in person, but it was happening and he was doing it. It's not something new that virtual campaigning, the way he is doing it, अचानक start हो गया, या तो वो डर के बैठे हैं, या वो इस तरीके से बैठे हैं, ऐसा कुछ. If someone is trying to spread it or say it in a different form. And also I was just listening to Dr. Pathak, and I'm telling you, today I was in Mumbai. I took a cab, radio cab, and the driver happened to be from UP, and I was expecting him to talk the 80-20 thing. I was expecting him to talk the communal line. And I asked him, why on earth are you going to, whom do you want to vote, and who is your preference? I'm telling you, he didn't even once bring the topic of Hindu-Muslim. Instead, he told me 5 reasons, 5 things which categorically do not belong to the Hindu-Muslim category. He told me कि भैया मैं नहर पे बैठ नहीं पाता था अंधेरे के बाद, आज गुंडा राज नहीं है. That is what he said. And he said कि गुंडा राज नहीं है का मतलब ये नहीं है कि सारे के सारे गुंडे मार दिए गए या सारे के सारे गुंडे भाग गए, बट उनका ये कहना था कि पहले के मुकाबले अब गुंडा राज कम है, मैं रात को शाम को निकल सकता हूं. इसके बावजूद उसने और भी 2-3 चीजें कही. उसने जो सबसे इंपॉर्टेंट चीज कही वो ये थी कि लोगों को घरों में कोविड के वक्त, which we are not, we refuse to acknowledge, but in Uttar Pradesh, most of the poor people were provided with food grains during COVID-19. You go to any house and you will find वो मोदी और योगी का लगा हुआ फोटो लगा हुआ अन्न धन योजना का. People in Uttar Pradesh are trying to talk about a lot of things and forget anyone. Swami Prasad Maurya, when the person who left BJP and has joined Samajwadi Party, he was on a discussion with a national television. Over there, he was asked about his ministry, which is Labour Ministry. उसने गिना दिए 5 लाख लोगों को नौकरी मिली है. सिर्फ उसने साल भर में 5 लाख लोगों को नौकरी अपने वजह से या गवर्नमेंट की वजह से दिलाई है. उसने गिना दिए कि 1 करोड़ से भी ज्यादा लोग उत्तर प्रदेश में लेबर कमीशन के तहत जो लेबर थे वो रजिस्टर हो गए हैं. स्वामी प्रसाद मौर्य जो आज पार्टी छोड़ के, सरकार छोड़कर समाजवादी पार्टी में जा चुका है बीजेपी को, वो जब गिना पा रहा है कि इस पार्टी ने क्या क्या किया है, आप देखिए, मैं ये नहीं कह रहा हूं कि सब कुछ अच्छा हो गया है या कोई डर नहीं रहा है. मोदी इज नॉट समवन हु स्कैर्ड. मोदी इज समवन हु इज वेरी प्राउड and he carries his religion on his sleeves just like Yogi. He is not someone who is going to be embarrassed of it, and they know what is going to work for them in the Uttar Pradesh election, and it will happen. And when we talk about Modi not campaigning, why do we always try to forget the patriarch of Samajwadi Party, Mulayam Singh Yadav, not even coming out? You know, it is so convenient, and we easily want to come to Modi, but doesn't want to talk about Mulayam Singh Yadav and be, you know, enclosed in his house.
Varun, I accept. Water is not the point, because Mulayam Singh doesn't come, so Modi doesn't come. Mulayam Singh is doing a lot of other things. Does Modi does all that?
I'm not saying
that is not the argument.
Modi was there in UP last month. How many times he was there in UP? Even before, let me tell you, Sujit, before election commission came out and announced the code of conduct, you could see so many times Modi in UP. उस वक्त यही एनालिसिस कहते थे कि मोदी को इतना क्यों यूपी आना पड़ रहा है, योगी में दम नहीं है क्या कि अकेले इलेक्शन लड़ सके. और आज जब वो योगी के भरोसे है, अमित शाह के भरोसे, इनके भरोसे, तो यही एनालिस्ट कहेंगे कि अरे मोदी में इतना दम, योगी में इतना दम नहीं रहा क्या. यानी दोनों तरफ से ढोल मेरी बजनी चाहिए. ये
वरुण एक बात वरुण, पहली बात तो ये मैंने बहुत क्लियर ये कहा था कि हिंदू मुसलमान मुद्दा नहीं बन पा रहा है वहां पर, और आप ये नहीं कह सकते कि बीजेपी नहीं बना रही, वो तो पूरी दम लगाए हुए है वही बनाने के लिए. एक दूसरी बात, क्या आप चाहते हैं कि देश का प्रधानमंत्री जो भगवान विष्णु का 11वां अवतार है, जिसे अभी हमारे मध्य प्रदेश के मुख्यमंत्री ने कहा गोवा में जाकर कि वो सुपर ह्यूमन है, अगर वो सुपर ह्यूमन देश के सबसे बड़े चुनाव में अगर नहीं जा रहा है,
विष्णु ने जब भी अवतार लिया है, उन्होंने खुद से कहा है,
ये हम नहीं कह रहे, बीजेपी के
मोदी ने कहा कि वो विष्णु के 11वें अवतार हैं.
वरुण
अरे बीजेपी के मुख्य, अरे
मोदी ने कहा,
मतलब बीजेपी के मुख्यमंत्री कह रहे हैं, उनको नहीं सुनोगे आप.
मोदी ने
बीजेपी के 4 मुख्यमंत्री कह चुके हैं इस बात को.
बीजेपी का ऑफिशियल स्टेटमेंट आया, स्पोक्सपर्सन ने आके कहा, स्टेटमेंट आया है.
तब राजनीति में ऐसी चीजों को,
आप मुझे ये बताइए कि कहने के लिए कोई कुछ भी कह देता है.
अरे कुछ भी नहीं कह देता भाई, मतलब अरे उत्तराखंड का मुख्यमंत्री कह रहा है कि भगवान राम है.
उत्तराखंड सीएम का पर्सनल रिलीफ हो,
हमें उससे कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता ना भाई. अरे हम तो मान रहे हैं ना, हम बता रहे ना, आई एम टेलिंग यू, मैं ये कह रहा हूं ना, अगर देश का प्रधानमंत्री उत्तर प्रदेश के चुनाव में नहीं जा रहा, तो क्या आरती और सुजीत को ये चर्चा करना नहीं चाहिए? मैं सिर्फ इतना जानना चाहता हूं.
कौन कहता है नहीं जा रहा है? आरती और सुजीत ने जो टॉपिक रखा है, मैं उस पर नहीं कह रहा हूं. मैं कह रहा हूं कि टॉपिक बहुत लाजमी है. इट्स वेरी मच वैलिड राइट नाउ.
वही बात हो रही है भाई.
बट इट इज माय पर्सपेक्टिव दैट he is present. Every poster in Uttar Pradesh is him.
स्वाभाविक है. अरे कमाल, अरे वो तो 5 किलो अनाज के झोले पर भी है, वो तो देश में हर दीवार पर है.
5 किलो अनाज का झोला गया तो लोगों के पास
नहीं ना, मान रहे हैं ना, इससे कहाँ इनकार.
Can we just see? Let's not talk over each other. This is not television. Like, you know, Varun, Dr. Saab, what we'll do is let's give each other time. So let's give each other a chance so that we have a civil conversation like we normally do. Okay, my only submission is, Dr. Saab, before I come to you, Varun, I want to ask you a question. And I'm not asking you this to kind of say what you're saying is wrong, or I'm not asking you this to kind of, you know, prove a point. I'm not asking you this. I'm asking you this as one journalist to another. Okay? Varun, tell me, while we talk about ration, while we talk about free food, we do talk about that. And of course, Bharatiya Janata Party has been somebody who could do the welfare, you know, is possibly one of the best. They could percolate the welfare activities right to the lowest common denominator. As far as you know, Bharatiya Janata Party is concerned, nobody denies that fact. But Varun, do we easily forget the bodies that were floating in Ganga? Do we? Is that not something that we should be talking about? Do we easily? And secondly, Varun, just hear me out one more second. I will not take more than 1 second. Varun, do you think that, you know, when we say that there are 5 lakh employment, do you know the report, the World Economic Forum report of the you know, where we speak about labor participation rate? where the labor participation rate has reduced drastically because youth are disillusioned. They have stopped searching for a job, Varun. It is bad for the economy. While we say it's not about party, it is not about politics. I am just saying it's about what the fact is. And the fact is that labor participation force has come down. That's the point we wanted to address, Varun.
Okay, I
Varun,
will answer both of your questions, Sujit.
Please.
You know, again and again, this bodies floating in Ganga keeps coming up. I don't know how. I agree that there were many bodies that were there in Ganga than what we, people in Uttar Pradesh were used to seeing it. Let me tell you, my grandmother, she was burnt, and her final rites that were, immersed in Ganga when she was burnt at the ghats of Ganga in Allahabad, Prayagraj now. This thing, if you let me, I'm telling you, the moment, if you see the news that came at that point of time, when you saw those dead bodies being floating in, the government clearly came up with so many directives asking the people not to do it. I am not denying it that it didn't happen. It would be foolhardy on anyone's part to deny that there were no dead bodies floating in Ganga. Absolutely they were. And the government came out with directives. The Yogi government in Uttar Pradesh came out with directives that it has to be stopped, and they took measures. But I'm again and again telling you, when we talk about labor, the youth right now is not looking for a job the way it used to happen 10 years ago. I'm telling you, the youth is more interested in having their own things. The youth today is not just looking for, except for barring one or two states. I'm again and again telling you, in the last conversation also, I had this thing that the youth today wants to be her own boss. They are doing things on their own. We completely neglect the startups. We completely neglect the people who have come up on their own. In the last 1 year in this country, more than 15,000 startups were identified and acknowledged by the government. It's there in this budget report. I'm talking about those people who have taken some or other benefits from the government, those startups. Imagine about those startups which are not even going. आज सर MBA चाय वाला है हमारे पास. आज हमारे पास कौन नहीं है. हम
fair enough.
Sorry.
Doctor Saab, I want to ask you this question. Doctor Saab, employment एक issue है. Okay. Varun may have his point, but employment is an issue. Okay. The health is an issue. क्या ये इशू कारण है कि अभी कम्युनल इशू नहीं चल रहा है उत्तर प्रदेश में? इज दैट वन ऑफ द रीजन?
निश्चित तौर पर सुजीत, देखिए ऐसा हो नहीं सकता. जितनी खूबसूरत तस्वीर वरुण ने बना दी उकेरी है, मैं बहुत सैल्यूट करता हूं. अगर सचमुच में ऐसा है तो सचमुच उत्तर प्रदेश में राम राज्य होगा ही. हो सकता है हम लोग किसी और ग्रह पर रहते हो, इसलिए हमें नहीं मालूम होगा कि वहां के लोगों को रोजगार नहीं चाहिए. अभी जो प्रयागराज में लाठियां खा रहे थे, हॉस्टलों में और लॉजों में घुस कर बंदूकों के बटों से खिड़की दरवाजे तोड़कर निकाले गए हजारों लड़के पिछले 1 साल से हर महीने आंदोलन करने लखनऊ आ रहे हैं. बिहार में आंदोलन हो रहे हैं, मध्य प्रदेश में हो रहे हैं. हमें नहीं मालूम अनुदेशकों की भर्ती के लिए कितने हजार लोग उत्तर प्रदेश में प्रतीक्षा कर रहे हैं. कितने लोगों ने स्टार्टअप से स्वयं का रोजगार हासिल कर लिया है. और अगर 130 करोड़ लोगों में 15,000 लोगों के स्टार्टअप का आंकड़ा वरुण जी अगर हमें बता रहे हैं तो हमें उसको भी मान लेना चाहिए. तो क्या ये पर्याप्त है उत्तर प्रदेश के लिए? पूरे देश की बात कर रहे थे अभी तो आप. तीसरी बात देखिए, रोजगार, स्वास्थ्य. अब आपने तो गंगा में लाशों को भी नकारा नहीं, लेकिन प्रकारांतर से सरकार का पक्ष आपने रख दिया कि सरकार आई बहुत आगे, उसने उन्हें ऐसा करने से रोका. लेकिन वे ऐसा कर क्यों रहे थे, उस सवाल को आप छुपा गए. क्या परिस्थितियां थी कि शमशान घाटों में कतारें लगी थी, उन्हें दफनाने के लिए, अंतिम संस्कार के लिए जगह नहीं मिल रही थी. कई दिन तक लोग इंतजार करते थे, ऑक्सीजन के अभाव में लोग मर गए. तो सुजीत, ये संभव नहीं है कि ये मुद्दे नहीं होंगे. रोजगार, स्वास्थ्य, शिक्षा, ये मुद्दे हैं नई पीढ़ी के लिए. मैं सचमुच आज पहली बार ये शोध, इस रिसर्च को जान पाया हूं कि इस देश के युवा को नौकरी नहीं चाहिए. ये तो सचमुच बहुत अच्छी बात है. अगर नहीं चाहिए तो शिरोधार्य. और एक अंतिम सुजीत आखिरी एक बात. जो बंबई में कैब ड्राइवर ने उत्कर्ष वरुण से कहा कि वहां तो एकदम अमन चैन है, जैसा कि अमित शाह जी ने ऐसे दूरबीन लगाकर बताया था कि दूर दूर तक अपराधी नहीं दिखते, रात को 12 बजे गहने पहनकर जा सकती है. ये वही उत्तर प्रदेश है जहां पर आधी रात को बलात्कार पीड़िता को की हत्या के बाद उसका शव जला दिया जाता है और अभी दूसरी घटना हो चुकी है हाथरस के बाद। तीसरी बात, मैं किसी नारेबाजी में नहीं जा रहा, मुझे किसी पार्टी से कोई लेना देना नहीं। मेहरबानी करके सुजीत भाई एनसीआरबी का रिकॉर्ड देख लीजिए, एनसीआरबी की सितंबर 2021 की रिपोर्ट देख लीजिए। प्रति 2 घंटे में बलात्कार होता है उत्तर प्रदेश में। 90वें मिनट में 90वें मिनट में एक नाबालिग के साथ दुष्कृत्य होता है। हत्या की घटनाएं सबसे अधिक है, महिलाओं पर अत्याचार सबसे अधिक है, महिलाओं के प्रति अपराध उत्तर प्रदेश में सबसे अलग है। और ये एनसीआरबी को अखिलेश यादव ने नहीं बना दी है, नेशनल क्राइम रिकॉर्ड ब्यूरो तो भारत सरकार का है भाई, उसकी रिपोर्ट पर तो ध्यान दीजिए। कि फिर भी हम ये मान रहे हैं कि अगर मुंबई के कैब ड्राइवर ने, जो उत्तर प्रदेश का रहने वाला है, उसने प्रमाण पत्र जारी कर दिया कि उत्तर प्रदेश में राम राज्य आ गया, तो हम मान ले रहे हैं, हमें कहां दिक्कत है। ये उत्तर प्रदेश की जनता को तय करनी दीजिए। ये मतदाता तय करेगा कि उसे सचमुच में न नौकरी चाहिए, न उसको इलाज चाहिए, न अस्पताल में बिस्तर चाहिए, न शमशान अंतिम संस्कार के लिए शमशान घाट में जगह चाहिए, तो उसे मुबारक हो ऐसा राम राज्य। हमको क्या शिकायत है सुजीत भाई, ये बताइए।
Varun, before I come to you, just give me one more minute. I'll just get Professor Ronki Raman also into the picture. Professor, you deal with students every day. Professor, do you think that the concept of working for somebody has changed to the concept of self-entrepreneurship? I understand what Varun is saying is because that is what it has been propagated. That is what the Prime Minister has asked people to do. I've used the wrong word, Varun. I didn't mean propagated. What I meant is that is what has been told to people, that why don't you look, bhajiya talo, vagere, vagere, vagere. But Professor, is that what's happening in the universities? Is that what your kids are thinking today?
You see, discussion is going very well, but the question is, when we talk about issues, when we talk about elections, we can't see the things in patches. We have to see the things in the totality. You see, so if we find that on one account government is doing well and on the other account government is not doing well, so we are not doing justice. The question is, if there is no such issue like a Hindu-Muslim issue, it does not mean the question of employment, is also being, taken into consideration. We can see finally that if you are really doing good governance, you would try to minimize on the communal front, you will try to create more jobs. But if you are creating, along with more jobs, the avenues for your own initiative to be establishing business on, different, IT, but at the same time, we can't say that the youth do not want jobs. The question is that jobs are not only an indication of employment, jobs are also an indication of how much government is investing in the public sector.
Correct. Absolutely.
I don't understand it. If there is jobs in the public sector, then we find it that those jobs are primarily not only jobs, those jobs are, in the service of the society. You're providing public health, providing education, at the same time, if along with the jobs, there are initiatives by the young, graduates from the university, if they are establishing their own, businesses, their own professions, so that is an added advantage. So if we have a good public sector, then we will not need to make people fight on Hindu-Muslim issues, no? So then we need not to bring those issues. Yes,
सुजीत
we can bring it. The question is,
yes, Dr. Saab. डॉक्टर साहब,
सुजीत मुझे जी सर बहुत अच्छी बात कही सर ने। मैं बस आप लोगों से इजाजत लूंगा, आरती को मैंने बता दिया था मुझे 9 बजे दूसरे चैनल पर बैठना है। मैं बस एक आखिरी बात मैं सिर्फ ये कहना चाहता हूं कि एक वेलफेयर स्टेट में, लोक कल्याणकारी राज्य में सरकार की जिम्मेदारी है रोजगार देना। क्या सचमुच में हिंदुस्तान में प्राइवेट जॉब या जो स्टार्टअप के नाम पर अपना कारोबार शुरू करने की बात कही जा रही है, क्या सचमुच इतनी संभावनाएं हैं कि हिंदुस्तान का 70% आबादी युवाओं की आबादी या यूथ है, क्या वो सब इस तरह अपना रोजगार चला लेगा? या सरकार एक बार लाल किले से प्रधानमंत्री जी अगली बार 15 अगस्त को कह दें कि सरकार की जिम्मेदारी नहीं है रोजगार देना, आप तो अपना पकौड़े का ठेला खोल लीजिए हमारे चैनल के दफ्तर के बाहर। मेरा निवेदन सिर्फ ये है कि वेलफेयर स्टेट की अवधारणा में रोजगार भी तो सरकार की जिम्मेदारी है। और पूरे देश में लोग आंदोलन कर रहे हैं रोजगार के लिए, और हम ये कहें कि रोजगार नहीं चाहिए युवाओं को। ये कौन सी पीढ़ी है? मैं भी इसी देश में रहता हूं, मैं भी यूनिवर्सिटी में पढ़ाने जाता हूं, छात्रों से मिलता हूं, जैसा कि रोंकी सर ने कहा रोजगार तो चाहिए लोगों को, सरकार दे पा रही है नहीं दे पा रही है, ये उनकी प्रतिक्रिया से आप जान सकते हैं। अगर दे रही होती तो क्यों लाठी खा रहे होते सड़कों पे। मैं इजाजत दूंगा वरुण भाई, फिर अगली
नहीं
चर्चा
राजेश
में
जी,
कभी
आप
दोबारा
आप
मिलेंगे।
जाए उसके पहले केवल इतना कह दूं कि परसेंटेज वाइज राजस्थान 90% है क्राइम अगेंस्ट वुमेन, एंड व्हेन यू टॉक अबाउट द क्राइम अगेंस्ट वुमेन इन उत्तर प्रदेश इट इज लेस देन 50%।
मध्य प्रदेश
नहीं
नंबर
नहीं,
1
मैं
है, मध्य
आपको
प्रदेश
सर
नंबर
यूपी
1
की
है,
बात कर रहे
तो
थे,
कम
इसलिए बता
कम
दें
नहीं
कौन
हो गया
सा
है। नहीं
प्रदेश सबसे आगे है।
भाई,
अखिलेश
इस
ने
समय
नहीं
चुनाव
लिखा
तो
है,
यूपी
आपके
में चल
शब्दों
रहा
में
है।
सर, आपके शब्दों में अखिलेश ने एनसीआर रिपोर्ट नहीं बनाया, सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट ने बनाया, और वही कह रहा है
मैं
अखिलेश
कह रहा हूं जब
ने लिखा है
राजस्थान में चुनाव होगा
राजस्थान में 90%
तब
है।
हम
सर आप
बिल्कुल
यहाँ
तब हम
मुंबई में एक
बताएंगे
जूस बहुत
राजस्थान
फेमस
नंबर
है
1 है।
सर, राजेश जी, मुंबई में एक जूस बहुत फेमस है, उसको गड़बड़ जूस कहते हैं हमारे यहाँ, जिसमें बहुत सारे
जी
जूसेस मिला के एक आपको दे देते हैं, स्वाद बहुत अच्छा लगता है। तो इसीलिए जो मैंने कहा, आपने उसमें से वही चीजें उठा ली जो आपको लगा कि ठीक है। मैंने पहले भी कहा कि सारे के सारे युवा ऐसे नहीं है, कुछ राज्य हैं जहां पर आपको देखने को मिलेगा कि
नहीं, उत्तर
लोग
प्रदेश में भी
हमेशा सरकारी
आंदोलन,
नौकरी के लिए जाना चाहते हैं। कुछ
राजस्थान
राज्य
में भी
है जहां
आंदोलन
पर
कर
लोग
रहे हैं,
नौकरी
वहां
के
भी
लिए जाना
लाठियां खा
चाहते
रहे
हैं।
हैं,
Varun,
राजस्थान
कोई
में भी
बात
लाठी
नहीं
खा रहे हैं।
सर, 60,000
correct.
60,000
Varun, I have a question for you.
शिक्षक
Varun,
चलिए
I have a
मैं
question for you.
के लिए
आरती
बैठे हुए हैं।
आरती मैं
Yeah.
टेक योर लीव
जी
प्लीज।
राकेश जी,
Yes, doctor.
थैंक यू,
थैंक यू राकेश जी फॉर
Thank you so
ज्वाइनिंग,
much
थैंक यू सो
for
मच फॉर
थैंक
joining.
यू
योर
सर, थैंक
And
यू
we will
वरुण,
move
थैंक यू
to
सुजीत, थैंक यू
Thank
रोंकी
you.
सर,
Thank you.
बाय बाय।
अच्छा, Varun, I have a question for you. Okay,
हाँ,
I have a question for you, Varun. Okay, ठीक है, चलो. We spoke about employment नहीं, startups, start your own business. We spoke about that, but a very pertaining point which Professor Ronki Ram raised. Okay, see, it's as part of a state, it is your job to create jobs. That's the state's job, isn't it? Now, the fact remains that you can't have an option for that. You can say that, listen, I will build startups. That's a good thing, but that's not an option for creating job. Creation of job is primary, because end of the day, and we all know that we can't just have everybody doing business in this country. That is not possible, isn't it? So the fact remains that somewhere down the line, what has happened to the job promises that BJP has been given? And I'm talking specifically from an Uttar Pradesh perspective.
see, if you see the budget, even this budget promised 6 million jobs, the budget that came on 1st of February. And I'm telling you, it's I come from I have a very modern approach when it comes to what a government should be doing and what a government shouldn't be doing. This is a very, very, very traditional approach that the government should be creating jobs. Why don't we see that the government makes things so smooth that people come up with companies and they offer jobs? Ease of doing business, the government model of ease of doing business. Let me tell you, today, for example, in Maharashtra and Mumbai, no file related to building redevelopment has to be submitted in person. It is all done online. That is ease of doing business. And via that, there are so many jobs that are being created via real estate, maybe, or maybe other infrastructure work. Government's job, government's job is not to run industries. Government's job is not to do that. I don't know why in India we still want to go back to
Varun,
Ek second,
government
let
job
me
is
finish,
not
Sujit.
running
the
industry.
Nehruvian socialism na, that is so imbibed in our head कि सरकार नौकरी दे, सरकार इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर क्रिएट करे, सरकार ऐसी पॉलिसीज बनाए कि जब सुजीत नायर को एक अच्छी कंपनी खोलनी हो तो उसे वो कंपनी खोलने के लिए जो 1.5 साल लगता था वो 15 दिन में बन जाए, ताकि सुजीत नायर कैन क्रिएट 25 more jobs. The job of government is to create such infrastructure. The job of government is to create such policies that will make people to come up with opportunities not for themselves but for others. I'm more than happy that Air India has been sold. I would be amongst those people who would say that the government should get almost all the companies that it is running into private hands, because that is not the job of the government to run private organizations, and they have failed miserably, not just because of Modi, because it has been failing since years. Tell me once when railway was in profit. Tell me once when Air India was in profit.
Can I
when
ask
it
you a
was with
question?
government.
Can I ask you a question before I go
Yes.
to Professor? Can I ask you a question, Varun? Varun, do you think there is ease of doing business in India? Are you really feeling that? Varun,
I'm saying
do you know?
ease of doing
Do you
business.
know? Do you know that? 2 minutes. You said listen. I'll expect 2 minutes from you. Do you know what happens when a Sujit Nair wants to start a business? Do you know, when I start a business, I may start it in 15 days or 1.5 hours. Okay, you know what happens then? Do you know what happens to you when you have to pay your GST? Do you know how GSTs are charged? Do you know what happens when when your vendor doesn't pay his GST and you are supposed to pay the fine because the vendor didn't pay the GST, do you know what happens to businesses? Tell me, Varun, today, you know what is the state of MSME in India? So this can't be true, right? If ease of doing business was there, Varun, this can't be there, right? It can't be true like that. The MSMEs are in doldrums today. So the bigger companies are, yeah, yes,
Sujit, I will add to you. Sujit, I will add to
yes,
you.
please.
The
Yes,
question is
please.
this: doing, making ease to do business is not only to provide loans or to open the banks, doors open to all. Doing business means you have to make an overhauling of your various, anachronistic laws. Those laws which are still coming right from the British days onwards. Doing business means you want to make your officers free of corruption. Doing business, you must make that demonetization should not, affect the small business. The question was this: there are so many things. We can find data. If we can meet 10 people who were having a business, they used to say that over the last few years, they have lost their business. Maybe due to Corona is one factor, but due to bad policies also. No, the question is, if we are trying to make something easy for a business, so this is not only here we can do it at our domestic level, our national level. Business nowadays is at the international level. We have to find that how we would be able to produce things with which we can compete with China, which we can compete with whole of Europe. Business has become globalized. Capital has become global, whereas labor has not. So the question is this: we need lot of support from the government, but at the same time, in order to win the people's interest to invest in business. I'm telling you, Punjab, many NRIs wanted to come and invest, but ultimately they did not find congenial environment. They leave, they go abroad. So why we are going? Many of our best brain, they are doing outsourcing based on American companies. Our IIT graduates, our IIM graduates, they prefer to be employed by the Amazon, by the Microsoft, by this and that. Why? Because where you are going to do, your make India, made in India, all these things. So you need not many things. We should not be only critical of one government or other government, but we need that if India has to survive. We want our business to go up, but in order to do business, we have to make our politics to be rectified. We must see that without doing changes in the political setup, our way of doing politics, we can't do the business. So the question is this: even if you're going to remove Gundaraj, ultimately for what? Because you can. This is also one maybe one can say, removing Gundaraj is again making easy to do business just because you need it. We find it, but ultimately, how much we have done over the last few years, in order to make changes in our police system, in our local, our tehsils, where we go there to get small, architectures office to get a clearance for small business. These are things, as Sujit you rightly told about the GST, how we can manage that. So all these things are very important. We must look into it. Ultimately, we are the one who want to keep our democracy alive and ticking. If we won't do this, then we will lost into communal politics. We lost into that this government is doing 5K Zina. I was telling somebody today, a person came for an interview. He was from Uttar Pradesh. He told me that at one point of time, some of the lecturers who were getting only few thousands, so a class time, they were made permanent. So they start getting 30,000 rupees. Ultimately, somebody went to court and again the backs to scale one. So they were again there. Now Adityanath Yogi said that we will do something. We would make a law so that they will get permanent position. And those who got, killed during the Corona, other things, we would give them 30 lakhs each and we will provide a permanent job to one person. So all these things are there. No, these are in the air. People now looking forward that just some announcements are there. We are going to get 30 lakh for a dead persons and we're going to get one job. So now this is coming at what time? at the time of election. You tell me, if you're giving 5 kg anaj, Punjab is also giving it. People don't need anaj. People need capacity, empowerment, so that they can buy their own anaj. How much we are doing that? That will count it.
Correct. Very, very valid point. Varun, Varun, you want to answer? Please.
No, I just wanted to say, agreed, Sujit, about the GST thing. We also have to understand that these policies are at an initial stage. It's like 5-6 years, and they would take some or a bit more time. But, I have been saying this not today, but for a very long time, that India as such needs a major overhaul in its bureaucracy. India as such needs a major haul in the formation of its rules and regulations, because people who are doing it, they are mostly, they have passed an examination, they come over there and they make it. We are strongly missing technocrats. We are strongly missing those kind of people who would understand how these things works. When GST was being brought in, we all expected that GST would mean ki ek tarike ka tax across. However, it rolled out in a very different form, troubled a lot of people. I know many people from the BJP at that point of time, especially the bullion people, people from the gold bullion, they were opposing against it because of the extra charges and taxes that was complicating the entire taxation system in business. That needs to be changed. And I'm not going to say that where the government is wrong. I'm not gonna, carry a flag saying the government is right, absolutely right. No, not at all. But for that, we would need a major overhaul when it comes to bureaucracy. The bureaucracy in this country, the babudam in this country has spoiled the country to an extent. And how many more years are we going to face these bureaucrats who, the moment they retire, go and join private companies as good CEOs or whatever they want to do, but when they are in the
even political parties,
even political parties, absolutely. Very rarely would we find a bureaucrat who
Or
has,
they become MPs.
Yeah, not just MPs. We have a prime minister who was a bureaucrat.
They start suggesting solutions after retirement. They're telling solutions.
Go on Twitter. You would find so many bureaucrats from UP who retired recently and now saying Yogi Adityanath should have done that. Yogi Adityanath should do this. But when they are in power, वो उस वक्त पता नहीं उनके जबान पे कौन सा ताला लग जाता है. So bureaucracy needs to be overhauled, and these policies, which are, I'm not saying GST is bad. GST is good if it is implemented in a proper way. Probably there are many loopholes that need to be.
Correct. One of the things that possibly one sees in this government is that intention, whatever it be, but their implementation has been a problem. Okay, now let's, Aarti, I am so sorry. I've been continuously talking, so I'm not allowed you. Please, you take over. I think we should go to Punjab now and talk Punjab.
Exactly. Yeah. But before going to Punjab, there is one question that our viewer has asked. I think we should take it and just answer it in 2 minutes. He has asked us, do you think that people of UP have broken from the BJP propaganda, and will there be a change in power? Also, how AIMIM, Congress and the BSP will cut into SP's vote share? Sujit sir, Varun, anybody?
Varun, would you? Can you ask the question once again, please? Sorry.
Yes. So the question is whether the people of UP will vote for any other party than BJP, and also how AIMIM, Congress and BSP will cut into SP's vote share.
See, I'll tell you, this is my view, and whatever I have been seeing in the last 1.5 months. See, the fact is, definitely, Bahujan Samaj Party votes will cut into the SP vote. AIM also may cut into SP votes, but this time around, the votes are, nobody is going to waste their votes, because this time the election is very, very serious. Earlier on one could split votes. So this time around, even the Muslims have decided who to vote. The Dalits have decided who to vote. So just because BSP is there, just because AIM is there, it's not necessary that the votes will be split and SP will take a hit. I am not disputing the fact that it will affect SP to a certain extent, but not to an extent where SP will get completely decimated or completely out. That is not going to happen. Number one. Number two is, I don't know how much OAC will benefit this election. I don't know. Okay, To my understanding, my belief, and to the people I've spoken to every analyst on ground that I've spoken to, AIAM is not going to do well this time around. OSC is not going to do well this time around. That being said, people say Mayawati, on the other hand, BSP will do better than what BSP has done in 2017. Everybody talks about BSP getting more votes, more seats than what they have done before. And like Varun had said last time, and I remember him saying this, that somewhere down the line, the BSP vote share has only increased, though the number of seats have come down, but the vote share has increased since 1996 or 94 when they first started. Vote share has increased. So somewhere down the line, BSP will definitely be doing better than what they did before. OSC will not be a major factor this time around, is what I see. And yes, while it will affect SP votes, but it is not going to be a game changer. That will not happen. But BSP getting a fairly decent number of seats may change the equations of the game. Which is what everybody would like to watch and see. This is what my opinion is, Varun.
I would like to start with, Uttar Pradesh has always seen that the incumbent government is never repeated. Since 1991, if you see, the government that's the dispensing government doesn't come back in power. So, if something happens, it won't be a major surprise. However, it looks very difficult right now because on ground, things are very different than what, we speak and we talk about from different answers and replies and people whom we meet. See, again and again, I'm telling you, Bahujan Samajwadi Party doesn't eat into anyone's vote. Instead, it is that party जिसकी वोट लोग ले जाते हैं, वो जिसके तरफ चले जाए. बहुजन समाजवादी पार्टी के वोटर्स आप याद रखिए, they vote for the alliance partner until and unless last elections. उसके पहले वो जिनके साथ जाते थे या जिनको सपोर्ट करते थे वो वोट करते थे. Last election we saw when in Mahagठबंधन they couldn't do much. Their vote share remained same intact, but समाजवादी का percentage नहीं बढ़ा. And AIM, I'm honestly saying, as Sujit rightly pointed out, the Muslims have decided whom to vote. They know whom they want to vote to defeat BJP, and most of the people in Uttar Pradesh know who to vote, who will win, and when to vote. So no party, I don't think any party is going to eat into anyone's vote. The AIM obviously is not in the race right now. Even after this whole thing of he being, Owaisi being shot, people, you go in UP and the Muslim voters always say that AIM is a B team or B party of BJP, and they prefer Samajwadi for them because right now they see Samajwadi as the only party that can defeat BJP, the way they saw TMC being the only party that can defeat BJP over there. Or else primarily they change their vote from some other party to other. Over here also we know that SP का vote base, एक vote base तो intact है, और ये 80 बनाम 20 वाला मैं आपको अभी भी कह दे रहा हूँ, अगर किसी को लगता है पोलराइजेशन नहीं हो रही, बहुत अच्छी चीज है. पोलराइजेशन नहीं हो रही है और बीजेपी नहीं कर पा रही है, तो ये बीजेपी की भी जीत है कि उनको लग रहा है कि बिना पोलराइजेशन के अगर जीत सकते हैं तो अच्छी चीज है. बट वहां पे राम, काशी और मथुरा, ये तीनों बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट सब्जेक्ट हैं और बहुत बार कैराना डिस्कस हो चुका है. आई एम श्योर इन द कमिंग डेज यू विल सी दीज इश्यूज कमिंग अप. एंड बीएसपी, आई एम गेटिंग फीलर्स. मैंने लास्ट टाइम भी बोला था कि एक हफ्ते रुकिए, बीएसपी का क्या होगा, अभी वोटिंग आने की बात हो रही है. एंड द कैंडिडेट्स, द काइंड ऑफ कैंडिडेट्स दैट बीएसपी इज पुटिंग अप इन सीट्स, आई हियर फ्रॉम सो मेनी पीपल इन यूपी दैट बीएसपी माइट कम और थ्रो अ सरप्राइज.
Great. I think Kamaldeep, you have got your answer. Let us move on to Punjab. Professor Ronki Ram is here with us. So first of all, my question is, in Punjab, we have seen that there was a tussle between Navjot Singh Sidhu and Charanjit Singh Channi for the last few days. Navjot Singh Sidhu was throwing all the sorts of tantrums that one could imagine. And it was very much evident that there was a lot of pressure on the Congress Central High Command that they have to choose. And usually what happens is, in such situations, they just keep the problem or keep the question hanging. They don't take a decision. But this time around, Rahul Gandhi came to Punjab and announced Charanjit Singh Channi as the chief ministerial candidate. Once again, you have explained it, I guess, a lot of times. But once again, do you think that it is a masterstroke of the Congress party, as is being claimed by the Congress?
You see that it's very interesting phenomenon which is happening for the last few months, especially as far as the internal bickering within the Congress is concerned. And yesterday, what happened? It's totally topsy-turvy in terms of what was expected and what happened. You see, there was internal, lot of conflict that Channi versus Sidhu. Sidhu wanted to be the CM face and Channi wanted to be the CM face. And already Congress has announced that they are going to tell people shortly who would be the chief ministerial face. In fact, the whole question of CM face is against the constitutional spirit of Indian democracy. Because you have to elect your MLAs, then let the MLA decide their CM. Not the already you can impose on people that this is the CM before people would decide. Khuda na kare, if CM candidate, would not be able to, democracy में कुछ भी हो सकता है, then how that would happen, how that would be explained. लेकिन ऐसी बात नहीं थी, but in the Punjab, already it was told by Shiromani Akali Dal, by BSP, by BJP, and by Aam Aadmi Party that if we come to power, we would make someone from the scheduled caste community a deputy CM. And some parties said, why only deputy? Why not CM? So this was the thing which prompted the Congress to preempt it in order to gain, a lot of 32%, almost 32% votes of the scheduled caste. To win over that, they immediately, after Captain Amarinder Singh's ouster, they brought a CM candidate, CM who belonged to the scheduled caste community. Now that has created a lot of hue and cry within the Congress because Joe Singh Sidhu wanted to be the face because he said that I have the capacity, I have the model with me, the development, I can put the things right, I can remove the drug issues, I can try to settle the sacrilege issues, I will do this and that. So he was trying to project it. But somehow he had been made the Congress committee's, Punjab Congress committee's president. So it was not possible to make him given the two posts. So Channi got the opportunity. But he did not leave there. He kept on saying, till yesterday, there was a lot of pressure that Sunil Jakhar, who happened to be from one of the upper caste communities, he was not given the chance because that Punjab never gave CMship to a non-Sikh face. So thereby, if you give to Jakhar, there would be problem. So he was out. That created a new game plan in Punjab. Punjab never saw, caste in terms of electoral. Although strategically it might be there, but openly it was not there. No, Sunil Jakhar was there, Jodh Sidhu was there, and Channi was there. It was very difficult for Rahul, Gandhi, to do this. Everybody was saying that tomorrow, yesterday, something will happen. But see how they managed it. Channi all came, Sidhu all came in support of Channi, but he was announced. He did not show any resentment. He said, yes, I tried my level best to show my candidature. But if he used the word Rahbar to Rahul Gandhi, Rahbar means to whom you consider just like a next to God. He said whatever he says, I agree with it. Even Sunil Jakhar said that many people say once you were not allowed to go, given the CMship, why did not you leave the party? He said, I did not leave. I have full faith in. That shows the management which Rahul has done. So that has given an added advantage to the Congress that they managed their internal fighting well before election. Let's see till the election 20th.
I think Sujit sir, you have a point here.
No,
what do you think about this? Has the Congress party been able to manage it well?
See, I'll let Varun ask that question because I'm sure he is dying to ask that question. No, my only submission to Professor is, sir, you see, two things that Sidhu said. One is that, you see, it is finally the MLAs who are supposed to choose which he now fell flat on his face. The second thing he made is that, you see, the high command will ensure that they will choose a weak person as the CM so that they can control him well. Is the second thing he said, which fell flat on his face. So now, sir, him saying that now my Raibar has said this or my God has said this and all that, does it have any credibility? Or should a person of his stature, should any politician for that matter, in fact, no matter which party he belongs to, should any politician be behaving that way? And should we be even condoning such things? Such behavior. That's my question, sir. And of course, if Varun wants to ask something else.
Varun, should I answer or put your speaker?
Yeah, Varun also. Yeah. Varun, ask us.
Varun, you are muted. Please unmute yourself.
Varun, you are muted. Varun, you are muted.
Oh, extremely sorry. I
Yeah,
thought I was on mute. I was unmuted. So I'm just going to say, coming to this on Punjab elections, I have few things to say. This probably would be after a very long time that the Congress has announced a CM face before going to election. I remember 2004 Maharashtra elections and 2009 Maharashtra elections. I was sitting in the Congress office. There was a press conference after 2009. It was clear that the Congress and NCP-led government is going to have, the coalition is going to have their government in the state. I saw three CMs sitting together: Ashok Chauhan, Sushil Shinde, and Vilas Rao Deshmukh. And none of them knew who amongst them would be the CM. Even after the results were announced, I have never seen the Congress announcing, Baghel as their CM candidate before election. Or for that matter, even Gehlot. It was not sure that Gehlot or Sachin Pilot who would be the CM till the last moment. Here, Channi has been rewarded. And that is not what I say. Channi has been rewarded in many things by making the PM wait, PM's convoy wait. That is what is the thing being spoken about. And let's not put Sidhu on a pedestal. To be honest, Sidhu has no place to go. He abandoned the BJP and went to Congress, where he actually got the PCC. But after that, today he can't even go to Aam Aadmi Party. Aam Aadmi Party has already announced that Bhagwant Mann is their CM candidate. Today, Aam Aadmi cannot even throw away Bhagwant Mann just to take Sidhu. Till yesterday, or forget that, even today, has Sidhu changed his tune, his color? No. Sidhu was seen in one of the rally. What was he saying? कि अब मैं किसी भी CM के या minister के बच्चों को, relative को chairman नहीं बनने दूंगा. And the comments that he made. And today, Channi is a bad face. I'm telling you, Congress has made such a major blunder. First, getting Amarinder Singh out, a state that they were sure they would have won, getting Amarinder out in a haste, then getting Channi, upsetting Sidhu. Now, I'm telling you, कल तक अगर मुझे लग रहा था कि आपको majority, आप would be closer to majority, to I think आप could get majority. Channi himself showed that he's not comfortable in Punjab from one seat. That is the reason he's contesting from two seats. A person contesting from two seats in a state where you have only 120, 130 constituencies itself gives an impression that he is not confident of winning the election from one place. And so Mr. Ram rightly pointed it out that it's democracy. He can fail at any point of time. Devendra Fadnavis was the CM candidate, but he didn't become the CM in Maharashtra. So
Varun, before we go to Professor, I want to tell you one thing. See, he was rewarded that he made the Prime Minister wait. Varun, I think is an unfair statement. Okay, that is definitely an unfair statement for the simple reason.
I'm not saying this. It's on social media. I am adding it. It's on social media.
So I think somebody like you saying it, it's an unfair thing. We all know. We are all aware. We are all aware citizens. We know he was the Chief Minister much before this incident happened. But that being said, sir, Professor Saab, and both of you all, in fact, three of you all, Aarti, I want you also to answer this. I want to ask you a very basic question. All three of you all. Should the Chief Minister, the Prime Minister face be shown, be projected before any elections? Is it right? Do you think, because Constitution says otherwise. So do you think it's right, Professor?
No, clearly said many times in different channels. Even I think I said also in your channel that we should, not start this, tradition, this convention of announcing. Many political parties who were there, their spokespersons used to tell me that without, parties' face, you can have a leader of the election campaign system. You can have a leader of the party saying, but let your MLAs, decide it. People are going to choose. This is not a presidential form of government where you must have a presidential candidate. First of all, this is. And the other thing was that let you won't choose, your chief ministerial candidate. Let there would be in the public, in the general will, as Rousseau said, that this is among them is a chief ministerial candidate. People would find it. Then they will rally around him. So that should be the idea of this. Because ultimately, elections are not only to win or lose. Elections are also a signpost of how much good Indian democracy is doing every 5 years. It's a question of becoming more and more mature democracy. It's not a question of making a, something, what we can say. I don't want to use any word which is lighter word at this moment because we want to be very much concerned with system. Because our is the only democratic sparrow surrounded by hawks in South Asia. Always everyone is looking at us. How India is a proud place in the world, not only because India is holding to its democratic tradition. India is holding to its democratic tradition despite the fact that Pakistan is not a democracy. Nepal
Correct.
was not a democracy.
Correct.
In Bangladesh, we find what's happening. So thereby, yeah.
No, sir. Please continue. Please finish. Please
So
finish.
thereby, when we talk about now coming to again Punjab, this is not a question of rewarding somebody. This is a long planning of the Congress. Congress thought that this time making someone from the lower caste as chief ministerial candidate would give added advantage to Congress. Right from the Mahatma Gandhi onwards, they have a what we call say Harijan Sangh established it. Mahatma Gandhi twice went for fast and to death, and one of the time was for removing untouchability. That we must try to do something to remove the caste system from India. Although there was a debate, long differences between Dr. B.R. Ambedkar's way of getting rid of democracy.
Professor Saab, one very important question. I think a very important question Tralochan Singh has raised, and I wanted to. This question is directed to you. He asks, in the case of a hung assembly in Punjab, who will go with who? It's a very interesting question. What do you think?
This is the most complex question, very difficult questions in the hung assembly. The question is that we would find it in the hung assembly who would be a consensus CM candidate among the parties. If everyone gets 35 seats, 40 seats, 48 seats, and secondly, it would be something very important whether they, if say a party has got some majority, a good number of seats, and the B party would ready to come along with it. There is sharp differences.
So Professor Saab, are we saying are you talking about a Congress AAP and Shiromani, or are you talking about a AAP and Shiromani Akali Dal? Because technically speaking, I don't think much of BJP is going to play. BJP is not going to play much of a big role, right?
Very good question. Very good question. If I can see my notes based on lot many understanding with different sections of the society. Currently, many analysts, many newspaper reports saying that there's a main contention fight between Aam Aadmi Party and Congress. But I'm telling you reality, the fight is going to be shortly and has already started between Shiromani Akali Dal and Congress.
Okay.
Why?
Okay.
Why? Because there is many analysts, many news analysts, they're saying that many people wanted change. They are fed up with Shiromani Akali Dal, Congress, Shiromani Akali Dal. Okay, how many votes are there, which are fed up? which are called protest vote, anti-incumbency vote, which are called, angry vote. Some says with the good adjective, it is a vote for change, change vote. So they do the most respected word, 80 to 20%. Who are they? They are the intelligentsia, the those people who are considering themselves that we want more, alternative. Ultimately, these are the votes which are floating votes also. So the question is this: if these floating votes are there, can they make Aam Aadmi Party to make a government? Very difficult. Congress is a party which had its own cadre vote. Chomdi College has a party which had its own vote. Aam Aadmi Party did not nurture its support base in Punjab. Aam Aadmi Party only camping on such votes and asking for ek mauka do. Aam Aadmi Party did not do well, in order to build up support structure. So no, 18 and 20% votes could have make some difference, But after the Samaj, after the Sanjukt Kisan Morcha, 22 organizations made into Sanjukt Samaj Morcha, so they are also going to camp on those 18 to 20% votes, and plus more votes for the farmer community. So thereby, the floating vote, the vote change vote, the anti-incumbency vote, the protest vote, the anchor vote, going to get divided between the SSM and AAP. But the Congress vote remains there. Now the question comes, after CM candidate, there may be some counter consolidation. If Congress is thinking that making Channi CM candidate would get 32% entire vote of the scheduled caste, is not possible. Scheduled caste, there is a caste within scheduled caste within caste. They are also sharply divided. So now we have to see how much different communities within scheduled caste they would consolidate their votes. Whether they will consolidate or not, but one thing is sure, there is a counter consolidation which will take place against the Channi as a CM candidate. So Congress is going to have a tough time on this count. See, in Punjab, BSP never was able to make any, significant, place in the assembly elections. Parliament ki chhod gayi. So they are exclusively scheduled caste party, also banking on certain, BAMSEF type, artisan community also, but they could not do. Now Congress is going to play that card, being a party which tried to depend on the scheduled caste vote. You see, this is a very, very risky thing.
That's a fabulous insight.
Yeah, on the one hand, it is risky that Punjab never happened to be an election which was fought on caste lines. Thereby, Sunil Jakhar said कि जो कुछ AK-47 नहीं कर पाया, जो IS नहीं कर पाई, कुछ लोगों ने जो पंजाब में अभी इलेक्शन के दौरान इस तरह की सोच दे के कर रहे हैं. कल उसने बोला था, अगर वरुण तूने सुना होगा, आपने सुना होगा उसको. So no, this is very important. So secondly, this would create something more important that maybe इस इलेक्शन में तो कांग्रेस को इसका फायदा होना हो, अगर वो इतनी पोलराइजेशन हो जाए तो देन 2024 में जो पार्लियामेंट्री इलेक्शन होगा उसमें फिर बीएसपी का की जगह पर कांग्रेस पार्टी लेने को जा रही है कि वी वुड बी डिपेंडिंग, बट कांग्रेस वुड नॉट अफोर्ड इट टू बी ओनली ए पार्टी ऑफ ए पर्टिकुलर बैंकिंग इन पर्टिकुलर कम्युनिटी. Nobody can succeed in Punjab because Punjab is always syncretic. पंजाब में जितना कुछ भी मर्जी रहा हो, लोगों में जो धर्म को लेकर कभी भी डिफरेंसेस नहीं रहे. वो गुरुद्वारे भी जाते हैं, मंदिर भी जाते हैं, मज़ारों पे भी चल जाएंगे, मस्जिद में भी चले जाएंगे. ये इंटरेस्टिंग रहा है. So this election is going to be very much interesting. So in haste, some of the decisions party have taken, but let's see how the electorate, the mature electorates of Punjab would think about it.
Thank you so much, Professor Saab. Thank you so much, Varun. I have just exactly 1 minute before we end the show. I want to ask you this question. Varun, how do you think, this question is very interesting. Where do you think how the Samikaran is going to happen? Who is going to join whom in case there is an parliament?
See, let me tell you just one small thing. We have to take a leaf out of Chandigarh. What happened over there? In Chandigarh, the Aam Aadmi Party, the BJP Probably it has been a BJP seat for 2 terms when it comes to parliamentary elections, but the Aam Aadmi Party did exceptionally well. I was in Amritsar a month ago, a month and a half ago, and I'm telling you, the youth, not just the youth, even the youngsters, even the old people are so attracted to the freebies announced by Arvind Kejriwal. The Delhi thing, they are so damn attracted. I'm telling you, Aam Aadmi Party is going to have a major role. Aam Aadmi Party has in Delhi earlier aligned with Congress, so I don't think it should be a major question when it comes to Aam Aadmi. But Shiromani Akali Dal won't come with Congress. Yeah, Sujit, you were
so no, I'm with you on this, but I'm saying, assuming that there is a hung parliament, so you are saying Aam Aadmi Party will align with
Congress.
Congress. Sir, do you agree to this point? Would you agree with this?
Politics is always the art of the possible.
Correct.
Nothing is, here, something.
But I'm telling you, a lot of sir ne jo kaha na, wahan pe Hindu votes have shifted towards the BJP a bit. If you see the kind of response that Bhagwant Mann in his constituency or Sidhu got in his constituency.
Very, very much interesting. Today, Gurmeet Ram Rahim Singh has been given a parole for 21 days.
I was going to come to that. The Deras play a very important role in Punjab.
That is going to play a major role. So, the Punjab Lok Congress, Amrinder Singh, BJP, Shiromani Akali Dal, Sanjukt, these three are, don't take them lightly. They are going to play a major role. So,
मैं बोल दे रहा हूँ, सर आप भी और सुजीत, I am telling you, 3 या 4 सीट जो बीजेपी की है, I am 110% sure it will increase to 2 digits. I'm not saying it's getting majority, but 2 digits.
Fair enough. So that's Varun's prediction.
We need another meeting to discuss Punjab. It's so complex.
Yes.
Well, I think this is so interesting because there is one takeaway out of this discussion is that there is nothing that we can predict at this moment about Punjab, what will happen, because as sir rightly said that Ram Rahim is out on bail and the Deras do play a very important role. So what equations will change after this, that also we have to see. And I think we have to
Ram Rahim is
entire
out on payroll.
Yes,
Ram Rahim is out on payroll.
Ram Rahim is out on parole. So I think we have to do an entire separate episode on this, entire discussion on this, how much role the Deras play and what equations will change after the Deras, announce who to vote for. Because I think Professor will know more about this, that the Deras are, told who to vote for dominantly. So this is how it works. So I think at this moment, it is very difficult to predict what is going to happen in Punjab. So far, it looks like the Congress has an upper hand and the Aam Aadmi Party is, neck-to-neck fight with Congress Party. But let us see who comes up. As Varun also rightly said, that BJP might go to 2-digit this time around in Punjab. Thank you so much, all. Thank you so much for joining in. I think it was a very interesting conversation. And once again, every alternate day, we will do this live show at 8:30. So please do stay tuned in. Thank you so much.
And don't forget to watch my editorial at 10.
Yes, that also.
Thank you.
Thank you.